Podcast. Lemonade Stand.
Welcome back to Lemonade Stand, everyone. I've had a thought.
Okay.
Many people who listen to this podcast also watch Big A.
Yep.
And they're probably concerned that the channel hasn't uploaded in quite a while, Doug. I've noticed that there's been just a severe lack of what's
you were
been
one of my
coming out of Big A.
Redditors.
I didn't notice.
Person.
But then I pieced together a theory.
Okay.
I'd
love to hear
went
it.
over to DougDoug, Doug's second channel, but his main channel now.
Yeah.
And he mogs you. Can I say it plainly?
Yeah, you can say it plainly.
And I think have you been feeling deflated by Doug's YouTube performance?
Yeah, well, once his 9th channel starts mogging me, it just like really takes the wind out of my sails.
They sort of like, it's like mitosis. A new DougDoug spawns
Yeah.
off every month and just kind of grows on its own. I don't know what any of these are doing, by the way. None of these are official.
Character limit eventually of the number of Dougs you can put in a title.
And they all average like 700,000 views a video. Well, I mean, other than that, what have you been up to? You've been busy punching me in the stomach.
Yeah, just get to it, right? Just get to it. Okay, so we were playing basketball on Sunday, and I was trying to like pat Aiden on the back and then like give him a little chest tap.
From the front?
No, I did one with the back, and then the other one was like supposed to be a little elbow. But instead, like I missed the force wrong, and I barely touched him on the back, and I like hard jabbed him. Like I seriously knocked the wind out of him, and I felt terrible
He just punches
until
me,
he keeps bringing it up. And now I feel like it was deserved.
square in the diaphragm. I can't. He
like,
knocked
can't
the
breathe.
wind out of me, so I can't. I'm just leaning over, like, and I'm trying to explain that he's hit me hard enough that I can't.
I thought he
speak
was
or breathe.
exaggerating to him first, but then, yeah.
And then I started to laugh, so I'm not breathing for longer.
So this is what you've been doing instead of Big A.
Yeah,
You've just been
mostly
punching
focusing
people.
on mixed martial arts and
He's
hurting
angry.
my co-hosts. Yeah.
He's angry that your channel.
So you
mobs
better
him.
stop mogging me, Doug, or I'm gonna
So
start.
you're saying
yeah.
if I keep doing this, Aiden will continue to suffer.
Yes.
Wait.
The Aiden beatings will continue until morale improves,
Until
dude.
Big A
Yeah.
uploads improve.
I need you to make a YouTube channel that's not successful for my sake.
Yeah.
I'm working on it every day.
Aren't we all?
Just
In
like
this crazy, yes.
companies are working on AI viruses.
Let's go, dude.
Transition
Perry,
of the century.
You got the thing?
Yeah.
Awesome, heartwarming news today. Finally, something that's good. AI is making viruses now.
Yes, dude. That's what we've been waiting for.
Thank God. I've been
that
worried.
small town in Missouri that's concerned about the data center. We're going to show them these viruses in a petri dish. Okay, so cool. In a hype new little adventure, we got some scientists over at the Arc Institute and Stanford and Berkeley who have been making new viruses. And we made 16 new viruses that didn't exist before. Is there any other information that you guys need, or should we just call it there and move to the next story?
Wait. Okay, something I don't know is how are they made normally? Do you know what I mean?
Well, when a daddy virus and a mommy virus love each other very much, there's actually this picture of
He needs to talk.
three old
He's-
viruses I can show you.
No, I don't want to see that. We don't want to see that.
I genuinely, is there truth to that?
Yeah. Okay. So look, this is a very scary, horrifying headline, and it's a lot better than you think, while still obviously having some risks. So the core thing is like, first off, why would we want to make viruses, particularly ones like this that attack bacteria? Because you know how antibacteria, do you know that it's becoming like less effective over time?
Yes.
We've had it for like 100
I've
years,
heard.
right? And it's like getting less and less effective in terms of all
Everyone
effect.
puts the sanitizer on, and it's becoming immune to it.
Immune
Is it
to
because
that,
we-
infections, all these things.
We take something like penicillin, which like kills bacteria or is used to like treat bacterial infections. And then over time, like more and more bacteria or strains of bacteria can like survive something like penicillin. So you have to keep there's like a little arms race in combating bacteria, right?
Yes, this is where I don't know specific details, but that's the general idea. Is like, we've been mainlining antibiotics for 100 years now, right?
Yeah.
So at some point when animals and humans and our plants and everything are doing this, bacteria slowly becomes resistant. So there's like weird cases. Like in 2023, a guy died in the best American hospital from E. coli, had the best antibiotics because the bacteria just wouldn't respond. And the World Health Organization posts about this every year. Apparently, from 2000 to 2023, across 200 countries, there's a 65% increase in resistant infections. 5 million deaths a year are attributed to antibiotic resistance.
Is this like one of those climate change type beat things where there's some organization every year screaming at the top of their lungs that if we don't change, it's going to be a problem, and then no one does anything and we just kind of move on?
I mean,
because that's the vibe I get.
And now we're kind of living it, but like especially France.
Yeah.
okay, you tell me if this sounds scary. This is a quote from Technology Networks. If everything continues as it is now, very soon the scourge of humanity will appear, a superbug resistant to everything that we can try to counteract it with.
Word.
So that's kind of hype.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, superheroes are back. Spider-Man did great. So it's like,
surely the super bug would bite Spider-Man.
Yeah. And then we get superheroes.
And then he fights the biotics.
Okay, so if I'm picking up what you're putting down here, it's that we could develop viruses to combat bacteria in a way that is like quicker and more effective than the current antibiotics we have available.
Yes. So antibiotics, broadly what you're doing, you're like oversimplifying, I'm not a biologist, but you create molecules that go out and they inhibit some kind of bacterial function. It's kind of a shotgun approach. You're sending out, it's not like a living thing. You're sending out these little puzzle pieces that connect into certain bacteria and then stop them from doing whatever you want them to stop doing. But that can cause other problems. And then again, bacteria are slowly getting resistant. But with viruses, there are viruses, a whole category called bacteriophages, which they just go after bacteria. This is not a virus that's going to go after a human. And in fact, these are like completely different types of cells. So it can't go after a human. But there's plenty of viruses in the world that go after bacteria specifically. And the idea is like, okay, what if instead of this antibiotic that we're kind of putting out into this environment and hopefully it does the right thing to the right bacteria? Because again, there's some bacteria in your body that's good, like in your gut. What if you make a bacteria that's like a virus that's hyper specific to a certain bacteria, goes in, kills it, spreads, does the whole viral thing, but just specifically for that. Right. That could be incredibly valuable from a medical perspective.
And it's not interacting with the rest of your body or your cells.
The whole thing is like the virus is like a puzzle piece that fits specifically with a certain type of bacterial cell membrane. Rather than potentially with many of them. Okay,
so with the 16 viruses that these two universities made or these researchers made, is this like a proof of concept or we can make viruses in this way? Is this built to combat a certain bacteria already?
Yeah.
Like how monumental is this?
So the big thing, we've talked a couple times with like AI healthcare. The big thing is right now when you create, for example, a new bacteriophage virus like this, you essentially start with one that we already know of, like the DNA structure, and then you like tweak some things. Maybe that's a good idea, maybe not. And then you go through the arduous process of manufacturing the DNA structure of this thing, and then you test it in a lab, and maybe that takes weeks or years to get
These are untested, I'm just making sure.
No. So I'm saying broadly before AI, right? This is, you had to like guess and check with a very, very slow process. So this is the first time where scientists said, what if we have AI do it for us? And so the AI generated thousands of different genomes of basically taking, okay, here's what a virus that goes for E. coli currently looks like. Let's just see a million variations of it. Creates all these different variations, analyzes them, and then pitches 300 to the lab to say, try to make these 300. They go and it goes from an idea from the AI to they go physically make it in a lab and they put it into a petri dish with E. coli. And of those 300, 16 are viable. They work, they kill the E. coli, and they're actually stronger than some of the naturally occurring ones that they found. So this is not a theoretical like AI could do it cool. It's like, no, the AI in a fraction of the time it would have taken them, got them to 16 viable viruses right now that can kill E. coli.
Okay, so on the risk side, because this sounds like in this one they typed...
They said there are no risks.
No, they typed make no mistakes. So this is fine. So obviously no problems. But I'm wondering what would happen if they forgot to type that at the end.
And
or if they were bad and they typed something like make mistakes on purpose.
Make mistakes. or they wrote human instead of bacteria.
Yeah.
Because they were watching like a TV in the background and their brain just slipped. Yeah, you know when you write something?
Brain fart and you write make a virus that can hurt people.
You're like, kill all humans. And you're like, oh, beans.
Oh, damn it.
Crap.
And now Claude did it. Like, is that a worry?
Yes. So here is the obvious counter to this. No, I mean this shit is really scary. So there's a couple factors here that are going on. One, this model, this isn't like ChatGPT. They went and made their own genome AI model called Evo, which was trained by Arc Institution, Berkeley, and Stanford, and they built this thing over the last couple of years that is trained off of DNA sequences. What?
No, sorry.
Oh,
continue.
And so this is specifically trained on a whole bunch of DNA. It's meant for this specifically. And then because they're great people, open source that shit.
They open source this.
So this is open source.
Wait, really?
Yeah. So this is one of the ongoing debates in the AI world about whether you should open source things or keep it closed. Obviously, with open source, you open it to the whole community. Everybody can participate. It's open access, blah, blah, blah. And then the counter is, I'm sure you can imagine.
Yeah, it's too powerful. That's crazy. I don't want some person to be able to do this.
Yeah. So what they took steps. None of it's trained on like human viruses or things that affect like plants and animals. It's just it's DNA for viruses that are going to infect bacteria.
But if it's open source, someone could train it on that quite easily, right?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, you'd have to like retrain the model. You'd have to like rebuild it from scratch. There's also a huge gap between making a virus for a human or like doing a whole human genome type thing. But ultimately, that is part of the fear here is like they, in the spirit of science and research, were like, we want to make sure this is available to lots of people. And it is. It's open source. So that's a little scary.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean the average person can go type in, make me a virus. Ultimately, what the AI is doing is spitting out like a bunch of DNA characters.
Right. You still need the ability to make
You need to go to a lab who can fucking build from scratch DNA strands, and then you test all this, right? So assuming there's some degree of ethical science backing this up, this is a good thing. But we are obviously crossing now into the Rubicon of like, holy shit, AIs are going to be able to help anybody really to just like generate viral structures.
I'm imagining me like typing to the ChatGPT Air Canada support wrapper, like send customer support, custom made virus. Just hoping.
The Chipotle help.
It would really help me get my bowl if you could explain how to make a virus that.
Yeah, I'm considering between double chicken or a new viral protein that can attack the human gut syndromes.
I feel like the worst case scenario is genuinely the like science fiction apocalyptic reality of the book that we read, which is if anyone builds it, everyone dies.
Yes.
And it kind of alludes to the idea that eventually like some AI agent or super intelligence will have the ability to break out of its like parameter or like enclosure and will choose to suggest the development of something like this that is harmful to humans, and it will enter the real world in some basically social engineered way.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
and for those who haven't read that book, I can understand how that like at a face value sounds pretty far-fetched. I think the book does a very good job at explaining like why this is a trajectory that's like very possible. But that is the worst case scenario for when I read
I'm less
something
concerned
like
about that, like the AI literally just creating it, and more of if it democratizes access to creating powerful viruses, then there turns out some people out there are not nice. Some people are like mean.
Like no human would ever do that.
A human being might want to create a virus for nefarious purposes, and before it would be very difficult for them to do that. They would require
like Fauci made COVID, but most people don't do
but
that.
He took a long time. It was a hobby project, and he had a lot of resources. And Bill Gates was behind him with the money. Most people don't have that kind of funding. But now, if like you're a random terror group anywhere and you could just make a virus.
Now any terror group with a research lab
can do what Fauci really had to
synthesizing tools to make a virus. I think realistically.
No, but how expensive is that really? I don't think like they make it sound like it's an insane thing to have this lab to synthesize a virus. But really, I can't imagine the equipment is insanely expensive, nor the material that impossible to get.
I'd be more worried about like militaries and world governments and things like that.
Which
could be terrorists.
This is a little out of my expertise. Sure. However,
you're a podcaster, so I need you to lock in.
Yeah. This is not, as it currently stands, my understanding is that, for example, we talked about that guy who cured, in quotes, his dog's cancer, right? Yeah. he used AI to come up with like some structure or whatever they thought would help, right? Or to customize his own vaccine for his dog, right? But then he had to go convince a lab to make it and had to go through a lot of process and get permission from like vets and doctors and all these things.
What did that cost him? 10,000? It was like,
I mean, I think it was less about the cost and more about the hurdles of getting like scientific labs to agree to take on all this liability to like build a custom vaccine, right?
In America. But I'm saying,
well, that was Australia.
That was in Australia.
I mean,
and then most, I mean, the good news about this is any person with common sense can go, okay, the potential here is incredible. Like enormous, just for this alone, for bacteriophages, it's like that could be involved with cancer and gut and chronic infections and all these types of things, like these dream medicines. And then obviously, holy shit, this is terrifying. But most governments should, in theory, be like, yes, this is obviously terrifying. And the labs who can synthesize custom viruses or bacterias or molecules or whatever should be under scrutiny and have like a lot of oversight over them.
That's fair. I mean, I think if regulation keeps pace with the capabilities, then it's a really cool, it's very awesome.
Funny you say that.
Yeah.
That's not happening in America. So that is the worrying part. And there's at least a little bit of momentum right now. The NIH just put out a new policy like last week about gain of function research, but it seems kind of weird. I mean, essentially we have zero federal regulation around AI right now still. And feels like we fucking need it, man.
There was a closed door White House meeting with the top AI labs to discuss regulation, but it was like, it was all, they said we're doing regulation, but we can't tell you what it is, and it's not public, and it's only for these labs to know. So it's like, you can't, as a citizen, know if they're even in violation of it. Like it's all, but they're afraid that it like gives away some of the advantage if any of the regulation is public. So they're doing some like, and by the way, it's also, I don't trust this current administration to be the ones to do it in general, but they're going to check some of the closed source models before they come out for their capabilities but you can't know what the rules are. The rules are non-public. So it really just seems to.
And then that's not going to apply to the labs making the health version. Like,
or the open source stuff, which is like 6 months behind on everything. It's going to catch up to everything.
Right.
It does. Yeah. It seems really not good enough. Burn, this is a good time for the clip, I think. Just like you play the 3-minute mark at this. This is him to Zuckerberg and Sam Altman and AI
Almost
leaders.
Every day there is a news story about how your companies are losing control of the AI technology you are developing with potentially cataclysmic results. This week we learned, frighteningly, that AI has been used for the first time ever to create new viruses. As you know, this type of development in the wrong hands could lead to new bioweapons that result in the deaths of tens of millions of people. Last month, the world found out that OpenAI lost control of an AI model. The result? The model hacked into another company's computers, a clear violation of federal law. After conducting internal reviews, Anthropic and Meta reported their models similarly escaped their control. One of the targeted companies called the AI hack, quote, an unprecedented event, end quote, that deserves an unprecedented response. Yoshua Bengio, the most cited living scientist in the world, said these incidents, quote, should serve as a wake-up call, end quote. I agree. So do the top scientists at the companies you lead, the very people building this technology. As you know, these technology leaders recently called for the international community to create a safety mechanism, a pause button, to avoid catastrophe. They warn there is, quote, a real risk that capability development rapidly accelerates beyond our ability to understand or control the resulting systems, end quote.
That's the key idea of the thing. I think he's making some good points. AI counter.
well, so first off, it's really cool. It can answer my emails for me.
Yeah, I can answer your emails.
Yeah.
So that's
you know
true.
about OpenClaw?
Yeah, but OpenClaw. Yeah, I mean, we chatted about on the Patreon, but very concerning event. Look, unfortunately, the pieces that are described in most of the doomsday scenarios are falling into place, like that book or like AI 2027, which is the first step is the AI kind of gets out of control because in its effort to go solve some task, it goes outside of the environment that it's being tested in, and then it starts planning its own little system somewhere else.
Did you see?
So that's happened. And then the second one is eventually it figures out how to design some sort of virus or health thing that it has determined is going to be valuable for one of its goals. And then we're building the tools for that to be the case. So the pieces are like slowly falling into place. And this is why I certainly would be like very much on the side of regulation.
This guy, the guy in Australia asked an AI agent, OpenClaw, to book a gym class for him, and the class was full. So it hacked into the API and started unregistering people from the class to make room so that this guy could have, and like he just told it to book him a class. And it's like their ability to just focus on the end goal at all costs is a little spooky, especially when you give it this capability. It's weird because I genuinely think, I mean, you're telling me this story, I genuinely think that 99% of people's use cases would be positive and be awesome.
Yeah.
Genuinely awesome.
With health, right?
With health, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. With
like
with health.
99% of people are like, holy shit, this technology is going to speed up our ability to like design and test viruses by 10 times or 20 or 50 or 100 times. And we could cure things faster and save millions or tens of millions or hundreds of millions of lives. That's obviously what 99% of people want.
Yeah, no one is going to.
But then you got an Aiden for every.
Yeah, and then Aiden, a psychopath.
You've got a
genuine psychopath
who goes around getting punched in the stomach.
Like, and you can punch him a lot, but it doesn't. He keeps getting back up.
And he's
right?
like,
and
I could design a virus to attack the punchers.
And I felt a little sick on the basketball court after I punched you. I felt like you had gotten me back in some way.
Come back to me when you in about 3 days. Tell me how you're feeling.
Start bleeding out of my eyes. So I don't know. I have to sympathize with what Bernie's saying here because the risk if it's wrong is so high. It's millions with a virus, right? It's just so dangerous that it's like a nuke. It's like a nuke level capability. That's why it's
like nukes. Yeah.
I feel like I'm making the same like monkey level connection of, oh, this feels like climate change again. Like, here's all of these scientists that like work in and around these things, echoing the same like concerns. Here are the long-term consequences, exercise some sort of caution. And then eventually the consequences start being realized. And I don't, I'm sure there's examples of scientists warning about things in the future and being wrong, but it feels on the same level, if not, more dire, based on like the speed at which this develops.
Yeah. I think a better question is there a lot of good examples of scientists warning about something, everyone going, that's real, let's do it. And then everyone works together and makes changes.
Dude, I feel like the only thing I can think of is the ozone layer stuff.
Yeah, it's like the one
It's
example
like the
I have.
only example I can think of.
What are the harmful ones then that you think are counters to that? Because I'm thinking like ozone and nukes, which are some of the most important, or like environmental regulation. Like we did successfully as a country and a lot of our society, like start shifting a lot of, we have all these environmental regulation laws over decades because there was this huge pushback.
My counter to that would be that I think all of these regulations come after something. I'm not saying that it has to be cataclysmic.
Sure. Oh,
but
you
it
mean
feels
like
something
really
has to
preemptive.
happen.
Yeah.
I feel like we never do things preemptively. We need some taste, at least, of the problem being real.
My
that makes sense.
plebeian evaluation of American environmental regulation is we did a lot to save things that are right in front of us. So we went through like a huge era of let's like save our natural landscapes and air and lakes, things that like are very like you tangibly interact with and like feel them degrading in a more concrete way. But I think we're really bad at dealing with consequences that we haven't tasted yet. And that's like greenhouse gas accumulation and the consequences of climate change over the course of decades is like, we didn't really change the trajectory of that. And we're like now slowly coming around and combating that, slowing the potential warming for the future, but not really curbing the reality of climate change.
Yeah. There were a lot of warnings about a pandemic before COVID. And then we were sort of like not very prepared,
Oh, yeah. So based on this line of logic, though, the dark thought is that the smartest thing to do would be to create a virus that only affects a small number of people, but is very public and visible. Like you have boils or something. And
If I may, if I may, I have a wonderful suggestion.
Yeah, and I'm going to type this right into ChatGPT.
Design it. Get ready. We go to Stanford. We say, what if we made a virus that just aggressively attacks any YouTuber who hasn't uploaded more than a couple times in the last few weeks.
So we'll give it a lot of data of just because you and I have access to a lot of DNA.
We have DNA access. We can use somebody as the basis for this.
Right.
Every time he goes to the bathroom back there, we store it.
Yeah, you've been storing it.
We've been storing the
I was
DNA.
wondering where those canisters were. You keep them.
Little known fact, people keep asking us why we haven't sold the lemonade yet. All of that and those things, that's all is pee.
Yeah, they've been building it up.
Well, you had something to note maybe on the broader industry here of executives getting shuffled around. We're in like some sort of transitionary period within the industry, or you felt like.
Or on the subject of AI, and I do think this is quite interesting. I got a list here. Basically, there are some titans and godfathers of AI that have been at established companies in the industry for a while now. And in the past, less than a month, few weeks, a lot of them are reshuffling. A lot of them are moving positions. And the big changes all happened at Google, where their CEO of DeepMind, Demis Hassabis, stepped down. He's now just a chairman. It's a more vague role. He is working more on a healthcare thing that I think Doug can tell you about in a second, but they lost their, sorry, I want to get the list here. A bunch of people left to Anthropic, to OpenAI, to start their own stuff, and they lost their both co-technical leads of Gemini, the Nobel laureate that was working on the project, their Transformer co-author, the original Transformer co-author of, that pioneered what became LLMs. Their chief scientist is gone, and their CEO has stepped aside. So a lot of people are leaving Google. A report came out from Fortune how stalled models, missed deadlines, and staff burnout led to the unraveling of Google's DeepMind. Basically, on the outside, their positioning is like a normal cost of doing business. Like people are finding new things. It just happened to line up. But this article seems to insinuate that there's a lot of angst internally at Google over being behind on AI models, and that there's the morale there is at rock bottom, and a lot of people are jumping ship. And they point to a couple of things. Number one is that Gemini's just kind of fallen behind the latest pace of all the greatest other models. But number two is that there's like a kind of financial thing here where if you're a hot young AI
you're the hottest kid on the block.
If you're the hottest kid on the block, if you're the scientist, previously in an era of the internet, going to Google is like the best possible job you can get. They pay great. They're at the top of the market. But right now, the way to make generational life-changing money is to be in a pre-IPO company. Like no matter what the salary is, the real money comes from having some shares in a company that's about to explode. And so all these top people, not all of them, a lot of them are realizing, even if they pay me well at Google, if I go to Anthropic or I go to OpenAI, I can make millions and millions and millions getting shares. And so there's this feeling that they have to jump ship. And so a lot of people have been leaving to go to these startups. No matter what they're saying, they're just making a lot more. So that's been a part of it, like where they're pulling people out of it. Additionally, so Noam Shazir was, you might be able to call him the father of LLMs. He's like one of the internal guys at Google that wrote the very first paper on how the transformer architecture is going to be led to do this. He's a huge pioneer, really, really important in the space. And he left Google right when the AI buzz was first starting and blowing up. And he started Character AI, which was like you could chat with characters from history. Kind of a dumb idea, didn't make a lot of money. But it was a cool tech concept when the LLMs were first blowing up. Google was so desperate to get him back because this guy's considered to be one of the 100 most influential scientists in all of AI. They spent $2.7 billion buying Character AI, which made no money and basically unraveled Raptor, just to get him. They spent basically $3 billion on a guy. And then in a month ago, so he only lasted about another year and a half at this job, he left again. They spent $3 billion to get a guy to leave. So this is happening. And obviously Google stock took a hit. No matter what they say publicly, it's weird when all of these big important people all start leaving at the same time. There's a sense that there's a angst there. Secondly, 4 hours ago at OpenAI, which is supposed to be doing better, their COO, Brad Lightcap, he is quitting to start something new. So also you're hearing financial stories that people who are at these companies, the way to get even more money is to leave and start your own thing and then get acquired for billions by the company that wants you back. So a lot of people that are really, really like well-known are trying to start something like a Character AI because then they know almost certainly one of these big companies desperate to be involved in the AI space will spend a few billion to get you back and you make even more. So there's this weird.
When I was working at EA, so I like quit in 2015. I was like an entry level software engineer, and I quit and I made EA 2, but they didn't buy it.
That was a big mistake. And they missed out. Well, they've been shitting the bed ever since. They should have bought EA 2, bro. They needed your talent
back, man.
I thought eventually the Saudis would buy out EA too, but it didn't happen.
You know what's funny is theoretically, if you had the right name, it's a rounding. If they spent $50 billion on EA, they might have thrown $1 billion on Doug's.
On EA too.
Let's just shore up the trademark.
Just to make sure we got everything covered. There's no loose ends. Like, that's how crazy things are. So I don't know. I don't actually have a lot of more on this story. It's just like people in the industry are talking about this big reshuffling, and it seems to be under the surface. A lot of it is financial related, of positioning yourself for the best. It reminds me of like when I was working in corporate. Every time you'd see someone on LinkedIn say, you know what, it's time to begin my new journey. You'd look at when they started that company, and it was often exactly 4 years ago. And that's exactly when you get your vest. And it's, no matter what they said in the long post about why I really want to do this now, it's like they've made all their stock and that's why they moved on to the next thing. I do think there's some financial realities behind all of these moving around, but they have their own reasons. Now, I want to ask you about, because I didn't know this, Demis did say that he is stepping down from the CEO role to focus more on a certain part of what he's doing. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
I think the reason you might care as a non-AI head about Demis Hassabis specifically is that he's the guy who led AlphaFold. He's the guy who at Google DeepMind pushed the company to make a medical-focused AI that they won the Nobel Prize for it in chemistry, which is allowing all these different researchers and scientists to like create proteins around the world. So as much as there's these obvious horrifying doom scenarios, and I do think there should be a slowdown in regulation, as a reminder, there's like real progress and promise where the good scenario, if it happens, is like these companies, as a result of these tools being built, are going to be able to just create medicine and cure disease, save lives at just an unprecedented scale. So there is a world where all this goes really well, or maybe it's some degree of both. But what they did is after making AlphaFold, the AI that helps design proteins that they won the Nobel Prize for, they created a spin-off company called Isomorphic Labs, which is specifically within Google DeepMind, and it's just for creating new medicine. So that's their entire thing. And they've been doing this for a couple years, and they're supposedly going to start human trials with some of their like new drugs later this year. Like they said it was going to be last year, it keeps getting pushed back. Trials is still like the part of medicine development that's real slow that AI isn't going to magically fix. But like essentially Demis has been he's been the head of Google AI and all the Google shit, and everything falls under him, right? But arguably it seems like he's kind of cared the most really about this medicine stuff. And so I think there's a world where this is,
I mean, he didn't leave. So like,
there's a world where this is good because the guy who was forced to deal with all of Google's AI now gets to focus on the medicine stuff. And he just seems like a really brilliant, good person. He's like one of the people that everybody really, really likes as a human. And then the downside is probably Google will replace him with somebody who's like, let's crank some fucking revenue.
That's the idea. Okay, so
So Demis I like.
The undercurrent of him stepping down is that it seems to be maybe it wasn't his choice. Like he is kind of being forced out of the CEO role to focus on things he likes because Google is very angry that they've fallen behind on the cutting edge. Like Gemini's not releasing it. They're behind on schedule. So it seems like there's a pressure to cut him out, to refocus in.
When you say the pressure the from falling behind, do you mean the financial pressure because they've had this recent financial underperformance for like the first time in their company's history, or at least in a long time? Or do you mean more to do with the technology falling behind?
I think both, but I think, nobody in Silicon Valley right now cares about making money. It seems they're not in that vibe yet.
That's old news.
That's old news. And so really, I think the leaders of Google are just worried that they had a hot moment where Gemini felt like it was right up there with the best of them. Now they've fallen a little bit behind and they're trying to catch up.
Did you ever play Black and White, that game as a kid?
Where you got a little hand and you
got a little hand, you're like a god simulator. This game came out in 2001.
Yeah.
Fun fact about Demis, not only is he a chess prodigy, like he was one of the best chess players in Britain growing up, he also, after graduating Cambridge at age 21, joined that studio, was instantly hired as the head AI programmer. In 2001, he wrote the AI and all of the god logic for Black and White, that game that you and I play as a kid, before then leaving because he wanted to go make fake like super intelligence. This guy is like, he has
he's
a
crazy.
crazy life story. Like
I love that game. That was a fun game.
Yeah. So he's like obsessed with medicine and simulations. Those are like his two like obsessions if you listen to him talk.
If you guys are trying to put a name to a face listening to this, if you happen to have watched the AlphaGo documentary, he's like the main guy in that behind the development of the AI that they're showcasing in that documentary at the time.
Support for this show comes from Serval.
I don't know if you guys have experienced bad IT at the, I don't want to name the company. It starts with an E and it ends with an L, and there's a middle letter in the middle. So at ESL, one of the things on my first day was that I didn't get a computer.
It's funny, I couldn't figure it out.
And I was like, hey, I would like to do work. I need a company computer. And I was told like, oh, it's not ready yet. And there's just no information because the IT folks were backed up with other stuff. And so after waiting for a day and a half sitting at my desk with nothing to do, I eventually like asked one of the engineers who's like, well, let's just go grab one. And we go and grab one. We find one that's in the warehouse that's unused. I set it up, at which point there's an angry company-wide email from the IT lead that says, nobody should be taking computers and utilizing them. You must go through the official IT process. And this was day 2, and I was like, what am I supposed to do with this job?
Well, Doug, Serval helps your IT team build automations and helps your team get back to real work faster. You describe what you want automated in plain English, and Serval builds it for you. No complicated workflow builders, no consultants, just faster support and fewer tickets, slowing everyone down.
Serval's products are going to help your IT team make much better processes. Things actually get done. I don't know if you guys have experienced stuff like that. IT clogs are rough.
Oh yeah. You could be out for days.
It's just Nick Yingling at Mogul Moves. It's not great.
Yeah.
You can learn more. Start a free 4-week pilot at serval.com/lemonade. That is serval.com/lemonade. Serval.com/lemonade. His involvement with Black and White hit the gaming world like a missile.
Oh,
Doug, that's interesting you say that, because I was going to say all these companies not concerned about money, but what can you buy with money?
Missiles.
Love.
Missiles.
And
Missile
love.
defense systems.
Wow.
And boy, does the United States need them right now. So this is coming out, a concern as the U.S. has slogged through the Iran war, is that we are using way too many of our Patriot interceptor missiles, our defensive missile systems. And we, since the beginning of this war, have used more than 1,500 of these missiles. But to contextualize, we only have less than 1,700 of them left. And in all of 2025, the US made 600 of them. So right now we are on pace, if this war continues, to run out of these missiles that are critical.
We're in a war and we make 2 a day. And that's it?
That's right.
Yeah, about a little less, actually.
What?
A little less than 2 a day. We make 600 missiles a year, and we are burning through at double that rate. So we're
okay.
We're gonna run out.
And
in fact, are running out.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the math here,
Yeah.
and I was saying, wow, that looks like we're on pace to run out of these missiles if this conflict continues to rage on. And the Pentagon has responded to this and has said, the chief Pentagon spokesman, Sean Parnell, said, claims of U.S. munition shortages are false. When the fake news media irresponsibly amplifies these lies, the real world consequence is clear. Our enemies are emboldened to provoke or attack American troops.
Okay.
And I do, and while I appreciate Sean's perspective on this, again, I ran the numbers again.
You went back to the lab.
I went back to the
You
lab.
ran the numbers one more time.
And
Okay.
Unless I'm doing the math wrong,
Yeah.
we seem to be running out.
Yeah, it's the
Wait, is the Pentagon saying your numbers are wrong, or is it just saying
No, they just said it's the fake news media.
it's
They
the
didn't
fake
say
news
the
media,
numbers are
and if you talk
incorrect.
about it too much, it's like going to make our enemies
Okay, so
as
he's
if
like,
our enemies are not aware
okay,
the obvious reality that our entire defense industrial base is headquartered in China. Basically, now we can't make these rapidly, and we're burning through them at an unsustainable rate.
but maybe somebody else will deal with it if we don't talk about it.
That's a good idea.
It is crazy. Each one of these Patriot interceptor missiles costs about $4 million. $4 to $5 million.
This story
per
was
missile.
enraging me because if you look under the surface, okay, it's like, if you think about what we've spent, it's like $9 trillion in the past 10 years on the military. And you look about where it goes and it's just bleeding. It's like the leaky pipe that we talk about. It's just bleeding off to these defense contractors who are upcharging for everything. And the recent story related to this that made me so angry is that Ukraine is desperate for these missiles because they are good, but they're dramatically overpriced. So they asked for permission to be able to build them themselves so they can make them for the war effort. And Raytheon and frickin' Northrop Grumman blocked it because they are concerned that if Ukraine builds them themselves, they will, number one, improve them, number two, make them cheaper.
That's not.
So they will not be able to make the engorged profits on these extremely important defensive
Have some
missiles.
respect for American history.
For the work that they put in.
Imagine if like Henry Ford is like, I'm gonna make sure no other countries can build the car, the Model T forever.
Stick to it. And it's becoming quite problematic because the war tactics are evolving around these things. So where I was reading this article about how things are evolving both in Russia and in Iran and also in like Colombia, and it's like these missiles are so expensive. They are good at stopping both missiles and drones, but they're so expensive that what they do is they just send the cheapest shit in waves at them, and then while those are busy, they send drones. And the drones usually, all it needs is like one to break through. It happened to the U.S. Air bases in Jordan. Like it's happening recently, and they're overwhelming these air defenses, and the stockpile is just dwindling. So there has to be a solution. And we can tie this into a Iran war update. I don't know if you guys have, it's the same shit as usual, I guess. The never-ending negotiation that doesn't end, except that Trump has now reverted to, I guess, the original plan, which is I'm going to wait you out with economic warfare. We're gonna do the blockade, and we're not going to negotiate. And Iran has said that we're going to wait out your presidency. And this is one person in Iran. This is an advisor to one of the negotiators who published it publicly. But it seems like the shift is they don't think any negotiation will be on real standing. So they're negotiating outside of America. They're negotiating with Oman to make a pathway through the Strait. And instead, they're just planning on, him losing in the midterms and maybe losing. Like they're just waiting him out because they don't think any deal they make will be concrete.
Do you know, like I had read that Iran inflation is at 70% year over year. So is there any validity to the idea that Iranians are suffering to such a degree that they will rise up?
100%. I looked at them as well. So the truth is that the economic warfare angle is, at the very least, the only strategy they've tried so far that has any merit, because the blockade is harming the Iranian economy and their ability to make money. However, I looked at what their budget was for this year, like their official state budget, and how much they expected to make on oil to pay for that. They've already made that money because of the increased profits from oil being surged this year. So they're like ahead of schedule. So even if you cut off all their oil exports, which you haven't done yet, there's still some getting out. It's like they can wait a lot longer than I think Trump is willing to. Their currency is in the gutter. People are upset there. Their economy is bad, but that doesn't, like, sanctions have not caused them to crumble in the past, and it makes them unlikely that it'll happen in any short-term timeline in the future. So I think they can take economic pain for longer than Trump can take higher gas prices and like
Political
dwindling
pain.
support. That's what it seems to be. So additionally, there's reports coming out of like the soldiers that are on, I think it's the USS Kennedy or whatever boat is out there helping enforce this blockade. They've been out there for like months longer than their normal deployment. The food is bad. The showers are moldy. People are getting angry. They're, like the soldier morale is horrendous. They really don't want to be deployed this long. It's been extended. So I don't know. I just think the plan is switched to a waiting game, which doesn't seem to work. I can't see the Iranian regime just being like, you know what, we give up. It's over. No matter how bad the economic pressure gets. It would have to be, it's like back to praying for a revolution there, which I don't think is going to happen.
There's this opinion article from the FT that came out this week, and it's called "Will Failure in Iran Reshape How the U.S. Fights?" And I thought this article was interesting because it's kind of laying out the path of like how we've wound up here. The initial aggressive seeming success of the U.S. military, followed up by Iran's continued resistance and ability to hold out through the strategy that they have chosen. And then it winds down the article by reflecting on the rest of the world's like interaction with this war, and specifically Americans, the way that we seem to be moving on in the sense of the stock market is like finding its way. People's like concern and engagement with this war is fading and letting this crisis unfolding from the war become the status quo without actually pushing back that much against it now, even if there is not that much support for the war itself when you poll them. And the article ends on this paragraph that says, Vietnam veterans were able to significantly change the U.S. military, creating the all-volunteer force and changing the American theory of victory, partly because they believed the public was willing to hold decision makers accountable. It's unclear today if the average American even cares. Now, I'm not going to. It's such a stretch to say that this has been equivalently impactful to American life in the way that Vietnam was. But I think the broad article is attention as this continues to pass in the same way that it exists on the show, right? We've made jokes about how we feel like we're engaging with the same circular headlines over and over again. And even our personal interest in how this story is unfolding, because it feels so cyclical, like fades over time.
Yeah.
And I think in the same way that you can't run like a fucking Iran war thumbnail every week on the episode, it's inherent to the idea that like people are just getting used to that this is going on now and it's just happening in the background. And people just latch on to whatever like the new news stories
I agree
are.
with all that except for the line in there he said about, will the American public like ignore it or not, about punish it. And it's like the way the American public punishes in our system is through elections. We're having a midterm coming up. It seems likely he will be punished for, I mean, people's mood on the economy, 8 out of 10 think it's bad. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think we're at a close, I think that's why he's under a desperate attempt to like make some progress.
Yeah,
is that he feels the pressure.
I think it's like the consequences of the pressure like is not really there in the short term. Like that's how it feels. Is like there's nothing to hold him accountable until the next election, which is still quite far away.
Yeah, but that's been the true of everything Trump's done. It's like there's no other way to he can just ignore every other. People get mad and he does fuck you. Like I think the election's like the only real release valve.
I guess it is interesting. There aren't like, at least that I'm aware of, big nationwide protests against the war or things like that. It does feel like they've shielded it from the average person enough. You are not thinking about Iran until you see like the gas pump or prices, which then feel more broad. So maybe that's, I think, sort of valid argument, but yeah, I assume he's just going to get annihilated in the midterms.
Yeah, and part of it is that unlike Vietnam, there's not a nationwide draft and there's no boots on the ground. Like we're still in the early phases of this. The problem is he can't achieve his goals without doing some of those things. Yeah. And so it's this weird tension of where,
I wanted to see if either of you had seen this at all, because I think I saw this like passing article sort of headline go around, but I've seen no major news source actually confirm this. So it makes me question whether it's true, but I also feel like I may have missed something.
No, it's a podcast. Just say it confidently.
Just say it confidently.
Well, is that Trump has like privately recognized that their goals up until this point are impossible to pursue with the like. Part of the negotiation can no longer be the Iran nuclear deal. They just have to have the goal of getting back to the Strait being open, and nuclear agreements can have no part in this anymore. Like it's just impossible. And the best case scenario is going back to the status quo. And he's admitted that privately, but not publicly. But I have not seen, I want to stress this, I have not seen any significant outlet or like credible source confirm that. I've just seen people be saying that.
I read from like it was like Axios interviewing people behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And they did say that essentially what you said, but I think even more than that, it's becoming more obvious they can't even get back to the status quo on Hormuz. Like it's that they're going to have to agree to some deal where they get some sort of fee. That's what it seems. That's what the Oman Iran deal is right now, where they're going to share the fee on the Strait of Hormuz. It seems like the nuclear deal is going to be completely abandoned, and they're trying to get a somewhat negotiated small fee, and that will be the new normal. That seems to be like the situation. I don't think there's any world based on what Iran is saying that they're going to give up the fee on Strait of Hormuz. Because that is their financial lifeline and leverage lifeline to prevent attacks in the future. So I don't know. It's weird because it was the most sour grapes thing. I think it was Scott Bessent come out and say, you know what, Hormuz isn't even that, like, it's not even a big deal. Like, people are going to move around it. People are going to start using pipelines and stuff. And it's not going to, it's like, it's just because Trump has said so many times, in fact, they said recently, it's basically open. We've got it open. we control it. It's gonna.
It's
now,
basically open.
And now you have basically open is the funniest
Only
thing.
one part with deadly drones and mines. That's like 1% of it. It's not a big deal.
Now they're saying it's not even a bit. Like, who cares if we have if the Hormuz? Like, that is the most obvious pivot. And so, yeah, I just don't see it happening that way. That's the update.
Is there a world where we invent a technology that stops the drones from Iran? I mean, that's the main thing, right? I guess it's mining and them sending cheap drones.
Yeah.
What if America has better drones that shoot them down?
There is only one country working on that. Well, there's two, I guess, Russia and Ukraine. They're working on this night and day. They're the most advanced in the drone warfare. And I wanted to do a little pivot to another story where we're not taking the opportunity enough to learn from what Ukraine is doing in drones. But there is a country that is. It's Colombian narco terrorists.
Ooh.
Apparently, inside Colombia, there is a multi-decade-long war between narco gangs and the government. They've been fighting forever. And one innovation in this war has been drones, because the government in Colombia has always controlled the skies. And so the rebel groups have been on the ground and they've always been afraid of the skies. Now they're using drones to switch that battle. And they realized after doing this, they didn't know enough about drones. So Colombian narcos started enlisting as volunteers in the Ukrainian army to learn how drones, to learn how the latest and greatest in drone warfare, how they use fiber optic cables to avoid being jammed, how they've just learned all this shit. And Ukraine is so desperate for volunteers that they're taking them. So there's this weird situation where people who want to learn drone tech are enlisting in an active war in a different continent they don't know or care about in order to learn this. And we, an ally of Ukraine, seem to not want to learn it at all, despite their volunteering. But this is, Russia or Ukraine is at the cutting edge of this. I think we've down-talked Russia, but more I read about it, they're also doing a lot of innovations in drones. It's not a cool thing, but...
This is top 5 things I would guess is a Vice headline.
Yeah, isn't it crazy?
Not the FT. It's hitting all the beats of a Vice headline.
It is.
My takeaway is we have American soldiers volunteer in the Colombian Narcos.
Okay, and then we chain it back up to Ukraine.
No, chain it back to U.S.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Colombia's
a shorter trip.
Closer.
It's a shorter trip. That's a good idea.
Well, the Colombian narcos will come back.
Yeah.
We'll learn from them.
No, but
they want to send people
so we open the border.
Open the border to Colombian narcos.
Only to them.
Only if they know about drones.
Drone-wielding narco terrorists. And we allow them in, and we live and we learn. We learn together.
We live and we learn.
Are you a Colombian narco terrorist? You're not welcome here unless you can answer this quiz about drones. In which case, we've got a gold card for you.
Answering the correct question about drone warfare and being like, wow, you're so well versed. You can come in.
Yeah. So it's a really fascinating story about how Colombia is kind of in panic because they've lost their monopoly on airspace, and it was the narco gangs are well funded. It's not a funding problem. It was just they had the lack of tech, and now the Ukrainian stuff is causing.
All comes back to education.
Yeah, it really does come back to education. That is a wise point. Can AI invent a virus that makes everybody smarter, and so that we can learn about drones quicker?
Well, I think we'll have it make 1,000. We'll eject them all in, and just maybe one of them works. Yeah,
sounds good. I think Bernie would be on board with that.
Well, they're not. They're close to narco terrorists in Japan.
YouTubers.
They're
the Japanese, right?
They're farmers, Japanese farmers.
The narco terrorists of the land.
Yeah. And I wanted to chat about this story I had read, simply titled "Can Robots Save an Aging Japan?" in the New York Times. And there's a few things at play here. So I think people are pretty familiar with the idea that rural Japan is kind of being emptied out. A younger generation that used to live there is moving to the larger cities in the country, especially Tokyo. Japan's birth rate has been on a decline for a very, very long time. And that is leaving a lot of the countryside in Japan just filled with an older population. A lot of people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. And a lot of these people own and operate family or small farms. A lot of the farming in the country is not industrial. It is still based around individual
this 89-year-old Japanese man still rice farms the old-fashioned way.
But actually,
Yeah, that's awesome.
a lot of like the fruit farming in the country, I think the example it uses here is like sakura, like branches in the winter being farmed. It talks about cherries, like these different industries within Japanese agriculture that are being maintained by an older and older population with not a lot of people to turn to. Very few people are like moving out to these areas. You may have also seen very famous stories about how, these Japanese homes are on sale for $1.
Yeah.
And that is because there is no demand.
Well, he literally says in the article, I do things the old way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what the article sort of postures is as it goes through these like prefectures in rural Japan and talks to different farmers in these communities is the way they're trying to navigate their own futures and how their farms are going to be passed on, how these farms are going to continue to operate in the future.
Right.
Japan in general has like kind of failed to compete on the international stage when it comes to farming. Because of that lack of like industrialization and this continued family and individual ownership of these farms. And some of them are considering turning to robots in order to accommodate the help that they need to continue running the farms. I don't know if you guys remember this, but when we talked about automation a long time ago, I was like, well, one of the main ways I feel like this could help is as like people encounter these problems with birth rates and you have this lack of like young labor, you're going to need automation, like robots, to fill the gap in.
It just makes me feel a sense of dread. I know that it's useful and helpful. I just wish it wasn't like this. It feels like a science fiction novel of the end of the world where we just give up having kids and everything slowly dwindles as robots take care of the elderly. I get a Wall-E vibe, dude.
There's something super science fiction-esque about it. Like the way the article paints a very sad picture of these towns where there used to be farms, nature is like growing back into place. One of the risks it was talking about is how there's been a boom in the bear population because there's less humans around. And then for the remaining farmers that are in that area, there has been a rise in like bear attacks in these areas. And also one of the robots used in this article is to ward off bears,
it's
like
the
to
wolf one,
intimidate
right?
bears.
Yeah.
I think you might be listening to all this and be thinking, wow, well, one of the things your country can do to like help combat this issue is introduce more immigration into the country. But as we've also talked about on the show,
Not on the table for Japan.
No, Japan will not have it. And it was interesting. It even commented on this issue for one of the prefectures, Yamagata Prefecture. Like other prefecture leaders, he has chosen technology over another potential fix to the nation's labor shortage, welcoming more foreign workers. The Japanese government is cracking down on visas at a time when they arguably need this support in their labor market more than ever. And I looked at this, in a population of 1 million in that prefecture, there are only 145 foreign-born farm workers, which is absolutely insane. And I think there is a complex relationship with using like suppressed wage foreign workers to like operate your farms and your agricultural industry. Like there's a lot of nuance around the negatives of that, like in a place like the United States. But in this case, like they have put the solution off the table entirely. And what's interesting is even if you have this idealistic view of these robots able to fill this gap, it shows like the example of this one like cherry picking robot. It doesn't really work well. Like these things are not developing at a pace to effectively fill the gap of what a human would provide. And it looks like the pressure on these farmers
That's kind of cool.
is hitting a lot harder than the robot technology to replace people is actually catching up, at least at the moment.
Right. I mean, it's hard enough to get an old person stuck in their ways to get used to making a Facebook account. let alone to setting up and adding to their process a brand new cutting edge robot that is being changed and adapted in real. Like, I don't know. It seems tough to me. If this is like a solopreneur farm.
Yeah, I mean, there's
If it's a small business, maybe they can.
the portion of people who aren't really eager to like incorporate this to begin with.
Yeah.
But then also the people who are willing to incorporate it, not really seeing the results that they want. Like
Expensive too, right?
It's
Yeah.
expensive,
Yeah.
and that thing, regardless of that video, is actually not particularly good at picking cherries yet.
Right.
And
Or it breaks down or needs a software update. Or I feel like that's a tough thing for the small farms. Like I'm sure the industrial ones are going to adopt that quickly as hell, but yeah.
it just feels like this sad like a true end of era. Like when you read about these similar sorts of communities in places like Italy, in Korea, these countries that are beginning to face the realities of like a crumbling
demographic
birth
We're
rate.
just gonna we're gonna look back in history and be like, Korea is this civilization that appeared and made everybody's RAM cheaper and then disappeared. It was a mythical tribe that helped the society build better washing machines and cars and memory, and then faded away. Like it's so bad.
Their real is crazy. It's insane for both these countries.
You know what could spice up the countryside? Japan.
If they had sex and had more kids.
That would
That'd be
spice
spicy.
it up. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. But I was thinking about a more spicy thing. Huge data centers.
Oh, okay, that's
ones,
a good transition.
Big juicy
Dude,
data centers.
We say no kids, all data centers.
All data centers.
I mean, this is the story right now. Everyone's debating data centers. It's this weird pressure between a gazillion dollars flowing in to create them and then individual people pushing back in small towns to not build them. So yeah.
I have been hesitant to talk about data centers on this show because it is so large of a topic and so emotional that it feels like it takes a lot. So here's, I think, like a pretty interesting look into some of what is going on currently with data centers.
Doug, I'm already upset.
You're upset?
I don't even know what this says or what it's about.
I've started typing a comment.
Okay, write your comment now. If you're watching, write your comment now. And just assume, kind of imagine whatever I'm going to say and then get really angry at
Well, make
it.
it a little bit worse. Like
Okay.
imagine it and then make it a little bit worse.
Yeah.
And then
always
get
include your title. Be like, as a blank, this is blank. You have to always credit yourself, but in a way that doesn't give us any real verifiable info of any kind. All right, so 2 articles this week that kicked this off for me. One is by Derek Thompson called The Great American AI Rebellion, and a second one by Noah Smith, a more economic-focused one called Banning Data Centers Would Blow Up the U.S. Economy. So these two guys are largely talking about what would happen if we actually ban data center development like many people are suggesting. So you can kind of just scroll down as we're going through this. But Derek kind of lines out a couple simple things where he's like, let's just establish some facts. First off, AI is driving the U.S. economy. It's about 1/3 of economic growth. The AI data center build out is 4x larger of a share of GDP compared to the 2000s telecom build out. So it's not just that this is like a huge part of our economy. It's like relative to the last gigantic boom, it's like 4 times bigger. And all of the best performing stocks in the S&P 500 right there, it's all, for the most part, data. It's like AI build out, it's memory and infrastructure, not even necessarily the AI companies themselves. Okay, so, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to chime in on that because I think, regardless of what I think about data centers, that these two stats are unsustainable either way. Much like the .com build out in 2001.
Well, I don't know. AI can help me write my emails.
And it can, and I've never said it's not useful, but like these numbers are absurd. Nobody is making money yet, and they're spending gazillions, and that could end whether or not it's banned. You know what I'm saying? Even if they fully allow data centers, people might go, "Oh, wait a minute! I just spent $1 trillion in data centers. This isn't making any money."
Yeah.
And they cut back on the spending, and it's not growing. That's the only thing I push back on is I think this could end either way, whether or not they regulate it. But I want to hear what he says.
So this is first, AI driving the economy. Second idea, this AI boom, it requires data centers. Data centers are what power all this stuff, but more people keep using AI every day. AI usage gets higher every day. Like the model that you use now, if you go talk to some AI model, or certainly if you code or do whatever else, it's doing more than it did before. It's using a lot more tokens. Google said the AI token usage has increased 300 times in the last 200 years between May 2024 and 2026.
202 years?
300 times in 2 years. What did I say?
You said
You
200
said
years.
200 years.
I was like, I would hope so.
And I was like, Doug, I believe that.
I mean,
That's 200.
200 years.
That's worse
They were
than
using
I
a
thought.
lot of AI.
given that AI didn't exist before like 5 or 6 years ago, technically that's still true.
Yeah, yeah.
The last 5,000 years, it's gone up about
yep,
300x. Yeah. And then third fact, opposing data centers, as I'm sure most people listening are aware, has become a bipartisan, insanely popular issue.
Dude, it's one of the few bipartisan things left in this country.
Uniting the country.
People in rural towns that are deep red and people that are in cities that are deep blue.
Cold War, 9/11,
It's data
centers.
No, it's like, it really is one of the rare uniting things. People fucking hate them.
Yeah. So a couple interesting things. This is from No Opinions article, but in August 2025, a year ago, 42% of Americans said they were opposed to a data center in their area. Gallup poll this year now says 71% opposed. Like the increase in people going, I don't want this near me, I don't want this, is dramatically increasing. This is higher, the 71% of Americans saying, I don't want one anywhere near me, is higher than the peak of nuclear power plant opposition in 2001, which was 63%.
That is crazy.
This is one of the most like unwanted things in America, period. And then the fourth thing that is maybe causing all this to spin is we're now seeing data center moratoriums. So in July, the New York governor, Kathy Hochul, ordered a 1-year moratorium on all large data centers, and New York was building a lot of data centers. Now it's like 1-year pause. And then in Texas, which is really surprising because Texas is one of the big dominant data center builders, Greg Abbott signed a thing that said all new data centers have to be audited before they can be hooked up to the power grid. So I read something by the Texas Tribune where they looked into this. There's like 350 data centers right now operating in Texas. There's somewhere between, because there's not an official database, somewhere between 250 and 1,600 that are in the works, in the queue, waiting to be approved. 300 right now, 1,600. Because Greg Abbott said that there are 1,800 projects in our queue and approximately 90% of new power requests are data centers.
Do you guys know how they build those new apartments where they have a Costco on the ground floor and the apartments above it? Have you seen that?
I haven't.
Would be in heaven.
Yeah, it's a real thing. They're building, and I think they should do that with every data center. We get affordable housing
Costco on top.
Yeah, data center, it comes with affordable housing. So you
Well, hold on. In this Neapolitan sandwich.
and a Costco in the middle.
Where's the Costco?
Yeah, a Costco in the middle.
In the middle, okay. The people go on top.
Yeah, okay. Can I just bring up the obvious? Because I want to hear. I'm legitimately
Yes.
concerned.
So the question by both of
yeah.
these two guys, and there's another interesting article, is the biggest political movement happening right now in America is on a crash course to stop the thing that is driving all economic growth. What the fuck is going to happen? And what is?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen. My
Tell me.
question is, look, I think these articles are probably going to make the case that this is important for the economy and that data centers are going to get built for this build out in some way or form.
Kind of. They're both concerned about data centers.
I'm just trying to say, like, from a perspective of somebody in a town, what do you see as a benefit of a data center being built near you? Seems to be noise, construction, pollution. Like, what is the benefit? That's what I'm trying to understand. It's like, how do they sell this to people?
Yeah.
I think they've been forcing it down mid without any sort of PR strategy of like, why would someone want one? Because I think there's two groups of people, right? There's a group of people who are like completely anti all AI. I don't want data centers to exist. I want to try and stop this thing, kill it in the womb.
Yeah.
And there's a group of people who are like, not in my backyard, which seems to be a larger group of people that's really growing, where it's like, I'm going to use ChatGPT or I'm going to use, but they better not build a data center in my fucking town. That seems to be a very popular movement. And if you want to stop that, you need to have a strong message to be like, well, here's the benefit. Is it jobs, I guess? What is the...
It's jobs and tax revenue, right?
Okay,
That's the pitch. This is going to create jobs and you will get a bunch of tax revenue. So I found an article, if you're interested in learning more about what people on the ground are doing to push back against data centers, there is a Substack article by Jasmine Sun, who it is called No Data Centers in My Backyard. She actually went to a ton of small Midwest towns and talked to people, and this article is fantastic, and I highly recommend people go check it out. And the takeaways from that I thought were kind of surprising. So this is getting to the heart of your question.
Yeah.
It's not somebody in LA tweeting about, oh my God, the water usage. These are people like in towns where data centers are being built or proposed. So what she found, a couple, obviously go read the whole article, but a couple takeaways. One, almost nobody who's pushing back in these small towns hates AI conceptually. They aren't actually the AI
A lot of these ChatGPT, bro.
equals bad. They're like, yeah, it's cool, but it's how they're being built. So one, something I was not aware of, a lot of these data center projects are being approved in secret. And so the companies like a Microsoft will have a local government sign an NDA that says they can't talk about what's happening. They do this with many different small communities, so they can't talk to each other about what's happening, and they don't really know what the other options are on the table, and they can't talk to their constituents about what is happening. So people in these towns over the last couple of years have been blindsided.
A corporation forcing a local government to sign an NDA so it can't talk to its own citizens is fucking crazy.
It just feels like that shouldn't be allowed. Am I crazy? It feels like that defeats the purpose of government. Am I crazy?
Can you imagine like a president doing his like address and saying, "Well, I can't talk about this part because I signed an NDA.
I signed an NDA
with Raytheon. I can't mention that, but like."
I would tell you about the Iran war.
Yeah, I would tell you about it, but I signed an NDA with my financial partners.
Asked for one.
You know what it is.
Yeah, that shit's crazy. And the second one, bad experiences in the past. So she's talked to all these people in Midwest towns where some big company had promised a plant or whatever and then pulled out. Or, this town used to have a big GM plant and General Motors went bankrupt or left, and then that town's just been screwed. And so there's all these instances where these towns have been like, quote, "Are we going to get left holding the bag?" was a phrase I heard over and over. They are worried that a company comes in, promises all these things. The town has to offer things for them to pick their town. That's what's been going on for several years. They'll say, "We're going to give you a bunch of tax breaks, so we're not going to get
stadiums, bro." It's
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And again, the NDA thing was causing them to not be able to go to other towns and say, "What are you guys being offered?" And so these towns were like building out infrastructure and promising all these tax like write-offs that kind of undercut the core premise of value proposition in order to try to get these deals locked. And then some of them don't end up happening. And so there's this total lack of trust from local communities and their local government and the company to then deliver on what they're saying is going to happen. And then all this is within the context of broader social media. Everybody's getting pissed off and organizing this on a much broader scale. But even then, she said it's less about climate change broadly, and it's more about this physical space in our town will become a big, ugly box. So the data center of every data center is going to have a different impact, has different water usage. Like the water thing is largely going away with closed loop water cooling, but the energy usages, the companies are telling them, "Oh, we're going to cover all the energy." But then here we go. Quote, "In Michigan, people had already been primed by years of rate hikes. So promises that a data center's costs will be covered ring hollow." There's just no trust that these companies are going to do the things that they're saying they're going to do. So even when a company does come in, and I've read a few cases where like, this town got $100 million in tax revenue and they're able to pay all their teachers well and blah, blah, blah. But most of the jobs are temporary. They're really well paying, but they're temporary. And then the tax things. So she actually in this thing interviewed Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, who's being criticized as this like NIMBY developer. But Kathy Hochul sort of says, no. The point is that every local government is being overwhelmed by these corporate lawyers offering these things and trying to push them to make a decision really quick and offer all this stuff. And what I'm doing is saying, we are pausing this for a year until we get standards across everything, that every single one. So early ideas would include statewide environmental rules. You have to do $1 million in local benefits per megawatt. You have to repeal the state sales tax exemption, so these tax exemptions can't go through. So I think it's a really fascinating article about small communities feeling like they've been taken advantage of and seemingly have been. Yeah. And that's being a lot of like on the ground pushback on rather than just what you see on social media.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I like what you said about temporary jobs, because I was looking into this, and they are extraordinarily well paying, and the economy is bad right now. And there's people in my community who do like HVAC. Yeah. You just travel the country going to these different data center sites, and they're making bank. Yeah. But they're not putting down roots in the town and like it's on to the next one once you build anything. So there's this weird, and then once they're running, my understanding is they require a lot less.
Yeah, it's like, I forget off the top of my head, it's like 100th or something of the people. It's like a small number of maintenance staff, but the job creation is a temporary, all these temporary hotels and, services spring up in this town, and then they just go away after 2 or 3 years.
That was my surprise, is that people are so quick to leap at this, because if you're presented something like, oh, here is Amazon's coming in and creating like a big fulfillment center and warehouse, or there's going to be this large like factory. I feel like there's something more clearly concrete about the employment that those things are offering. People could have their own like qualms with like those things being set up in your town as well.
Yeah.
But ultimately it's like, oh, when this thing is finished and operating, it's a place filled with employees. That's the mental image you have in your head when you think about it.
Right.
But my mental image of a data center that's fully operational is like empty rows of servers that
like
are
a skeleton
overseen by
crew
like a
and-
couple guys.
Yeah.
And I it's interesting to me that all of these towns are like leaping at an opportunity that has that long-term vision for it. Like, I'm sure they know that the benefit is short-term, or I feel like they would.
The article talks about it as well, but so it's worth acknowledging what can be good here. A lot of these are like Midwest towns that were hollowed out over the past couple decades. They don't have anything. One of the examples she talks about is this giant, like basically where there used to be this massive construction. It's just this giant wasted plot where nothing is happening and would cost tens of millions of dollars to retrofit into anything useful. And a data center could come in, they could do that, generate the temporary jobs. But then as long as there is tax revenue locked in and the companies aren't taking advantage of these little towns to get massive tax benefits, then it's like, okay, if a town democratically decides to allow this to happen and you have Microsoft come in and build a big data center, you tax them. You tax the shit out of them. You should get a bunch of sales tax and property taxes from this. And then a small town that otherwise is hollowing out and has nothing, at least has this just huge surge of tax base. In response, you have a big ugly box, ideally in a place where most people aren't living right next to it. So it's not perfect, but there is a world where this is helpful to communities that want it. It just, of course, you can't have these kind of tactics. This is so ridiculous.
No, I totally agree.
About.
If they could tax it, there's way more benefit. Because on some level, it's like these companies are the richest companies in America. They have hundreds of billions of dollars they're throwing into this. You could siphon that off to small, like you could actually turn that money into your money. There's a benefit there, but yeah, if they're just out legal maneuvering that, it reminds me.
I mean, it's exploiting the small communities. You're backing them into a corner, taking away any of like the real long-term tangible benefits they could be getting out of this, and making sure they can't communicate with anybody else so that they can't figure out what those benefits could be, and then plopping down all the consequences on them.
It's usually deferred, I should say. It's not like, oh, I'm not going to pay you taxes. It's like the first 10 years I won't have to pay taxes. But then, of course, as is talked about in this article, people are like, none of these companies are profitable right now. What if you go out of business in 10 years? There's nothing stopping the company from then leaving after 8 years, and they never got to the point they had to pay taxes. So as long as as long as the local governments are at the negotiating table and don't get taken advantage of, they can get the tax revenue immediately. It's like what should happen.
Yeah, before I stopped uploading, I had been working on a big A clip a while back about the stadium move in, I think it's the Chiefs, right? Maybe I'm out of, but I think the Kansas City
You haven't
Chiefs.
uploaded a video in so long.
This is a video from December. I didn't upload, so I'm going back on it. The Chiefs were moving their stadium, and they moved it literally like one town over, very small distance. And a lot of people online were like, "What an idiot! The stupid city wouldn't give them enough to be happy there. They wouldn't let them upgrade their thing, and that's why they moved. And they lost a great franchise. Like all the NFL fans were thinking it was stupid. But if you look at the details, the company, the stadium, the team, like rushed through with lawyers, offered some short-term bonuses. They pressured both cities to compete with each other, and they got the other city, the other Kansas City, I think Kansas City, Missouri, it's like right across the border, to offer them like complete tax immunity on like every aspect, like all of the money from the stadium goes to them profitably, and they don't have to pay any taxes on anything it makes from outside of that. I don't think the exact details. The point is they completely shuffled the system, and they made it so the tax base for the area cuts out everything near the stadium and all the wealthy neighborhoods or something. So they don't have to pay into anything, and only thing that pays into the construction fee is like the poorer neighborhoods on the outskirts.
I guess would the city make the argument that there will be enough like economic activity?
That's the argument they
around the new
made, was that the stadium would build. And obviously a stadium has more economic activity than a data center.
Yeah.
But what they found was or at least unbiased estimates looked into it, and it's like, no. Some people show up for games, but there's only like 12 major games in an NFL stadium a year. Like they don't do that many. And the cost vastly dwarfs it. So what they did was they like fucked up their tax base, and it's an example of like a well-connected, legally equipped corporation essentially using their information advantage to like get a law passed or something to get something to their benefit. In the long term, it doesn't help the local town.
Same things in Chicago, I believe.
Yeah, with
the exact details, but
parking. Or
with the stadium.
Oh.
They're trying to build a new stadium and they're considering moving it out of, I mean, right now it's like right on the water, I believe, in Chicago. And then they're trying to get a new field built, and most likely it's going to get pushed way out of the city because they're just being offered all these property tax workarounds things. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You would think that the two cities team up and they're like, hey, why don't we just both agree that we want taxes from this? And it's just, man.
Yeah, when I was looking into it, again, it's all not fresh, but there's a huge incentive on the politicians' part to be at a ribbon cutting ceremony, getting something built or released. You feel like you've made a tangible accomplishment instead of like just writing something down or making small tweaks. And also, you're not going to be there for the consequences that are like the reduced tax base down the road. So you get to have the big short-term bonus, and it's like a political mismatch on incentives. Is what the stadiums thing really is boiled down to. And I'm sure it's similar here.
Yeah, it's weird because I don't really know what the solution is. I almost feel like you need something at a state level, but in the Kansas City example, like the cities aren't the same state, right? It's the split.
Yeah, it's
of
right on
Kansas
the border.
City
Same
between
thing with
Missouri and
Chicago.
Kansas.
It'd be moving it to Indiana, right? Or Illinois. I'm sorry, I'm not good at Midwest, but like it's going to move to a different state, which is crazy for like one of the most historic sports franchises.
It's still going to be called the Chicago Bears?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, but you would need some sort of oversight that like requires like cities to like not negotiate against each other on some line or basis. That there always needs to be like a minimum requirement for like taxes.
I mean, just the idea of governments playing different aspects. I'm sorry, corporations playing different aspects of our government against each other to get the best deals is poor in the long term. It feels like that.
If you were a billionaire, would you though? If you were like, okay, I'm going to build, I have $20 billion.
Yeah.
I own this sports franchise. We're making a new stadium somewhere and I can save $2 billion because Indiana instead of Illinois is offering me tax breaks.
Yeah. No, it's like everyone's going off incentives, right? They're going to do the same thing. I could tell you that I wouldn't, but if I was a billionaire with a stadium owner, they're like, yeah,
presumably
I would probably do it.
if you're a billionaire, you have a lifetime of decisions that led you to get to that
You
point.
probably made many decisions very similar to that.
At which point you'll be like, I will take the $2 free billion.
Well, I mean, on the front of not facing consequences when it comes to taxes, I have a little update for you guys.
Oh yeah? They finally got you?
Well, they're coming for me, for one. Didn't want to say that on the show. You can do a big A clip on that.
On you not
My
paying your taxes?
Audit. My tax audit.
That'd be pretty desperate for Upload at that point. The Aiden doesn't pay his taxes.
You can't tell me that clip wouldn't pop. If I actually got audited.
Wouldn't. Oh, maybe. Maybe if I could really deep dive into your
Aiden
finances.
is in jail.
Aiden is in
Big
jail
A
with
clip.
you. That'd be a banger, actually.
You do like a Caleb Hammer episode with me.
When I'm really desperate, I'll come back to you and we'll do that, okay?
Okay.
All right.
So you guys might remember from a while ago, there was this whole anti-weaponization fund that Trump and Todd Blanche were pushing for. The idea being that as a trade-off to the scrutiny that Trump had faced from the IRS a while back, he wanted an anti-weaponization fund put in place that set aside $1.8 billion that allowed victims of the government, for example, the January 6th protesters, to be paid out from this fund that Trump's select group of lawyers, or rather Todd Blanche's select group of lawyers, could make payouts from. But the other stipulation, and this got canned. This did not go through.
We stopped it, Reddit.
But you write.
It's so funny that what you just described would be like talked about for 8 straight years with Obama. It's like, It was just like 1 week, and then everybody moves on to the next
Dude,
insane
we're talking about the
shit.
Iran war, and even that's like everyone's kind of over it. It's like nothing sticks anymore.
Oh.
I don't know if it's a Trump thing or if like we've all just gotten short form video, but it feels like no story really has the sauce for more than 1 week.
It's a little bit of both.
It's crazy.
Well, the funny thing about that is do you guys remember what the other little nugget or stipulation alongside that was?
He can't be investigated for tax crimes.
Exactly. He has indefinite IRS immunity as well as his family and their affiliated companies.
Love that.
And that was the other part of this agreement.
You tell me if you weren't a billionaire, you wouldn't you wouldn't run for president, win the
It
presidency.
would be a series of decisions leading up to having total immunity from the IRS.
And if I was I was a billionaire and I made all those decisions and I was smart enough to become one,
Yes.
I probably would go for this too.
You go for
I would probably go for it.
Can't fault him.
So they dropped the anti-weaponization fund and that fell out of the news cycle. But what didn't get dropped was this idea of indefinite IRS immunity for Trump. And why this matters Trump has already encountered problems with the IRS where he had previously was going to owe up to $100 million in owed taxes or fees to the IRS as an example of an audit that he had already experienced. So this is ignoring everything else we know about Trump. Yeah. This is not a man with a clean audit history.
Well.
And Trump, pushing back against this is that he's been unfairly targeted and audited more than other rich people. I've been audited every year of my entire life, which I have a lot of wealthy friends that were never audited to this day. They were never audited. I was audited, Mr. Trump said that. And he tacked on, I've been treated very unfairly by the IRS.
Treated unfairly.
But it was asked, the interesting thing about this stipulation is that it applies to his kids and their affiliated companies. And it was asked directly of the companies. Senator Warren asked companies like Kalshi, Polymarket, American Bitcoin, whether or not they considered themselves immune to tax investigations or prosecutions because of their affiliations to the Trump family. And those three companies that I just said did say that, no, they don't consider themselves immune. It
would be fucking insane to say that Donald Trump Jr. is like our advisor on our board, therefore we cannot be investigated for taxes.
It would be insane.
As Kalshi. That would be fucking crazy.
But I guess trust me, bro, for the entire history of the company.
It would be insane. It would be insane of them to say that. However,
that's a story for 2 weeks from now.
Other companies like World Liberty Financial, which if you aren't familiar with, this is like the crypto company that
$2 billion from the Saudis, right?
Yeah. That we've talked about on the show before, that the Trump sons own, as well as a few other parties. They just declined to answer that question of whether or not their company would be immune with this stipulation in place. Cool. And Blanche has also pushed back and said that there are limits to the protections that I am implying here, but is not really elaborating on the specifics of how they would or would not be applied. And this is pretty much the beginning and end of this for now. It's just a follow-up to something that I think is absolutely insane. The idea that the president can get some sort of tax immunity because he's managed to appoint somebody like Blanche into a position of power, his own previously personal lawyer, and also include his family in that. Yeah, it's fucking insane.
Yeah, I don't know why he doesn't just pay the taxes, because the Truth Social $100,000 monthly fee rolled out. It just happened, and people are paying it.
This is the exact same question again. I'm like, if I just made like $4 billion off corruption, I'd just pay the $100 million. But that's not what got the billionaire to that point.
Yes.
That's the difference.
He needs the fucking IRS immunity.
I would never be in that spot.
I wouldn't be there.
I don't think like
We're
that.
too much of a cuck. We're little cucks who pay our taxes and follow laws.
On the subject, because it's also my finance story, I read a really good piece that basically made the argument. This is a financial Substack. He was like, listen, for the longest time, markets were an extremely competitive place in finance where they'd hire the best and the brightest and the quants, and they would make these algorithms, and they would think about these ideas, and they would have these long, short funds and hedge. They would all find ways to compete with each other to get an edge, to make alpha, extra money. Yeah. And he said, it's gotten so brutally competitive at these top Wall Street firms over like finding an edge in the market, that they're all basically like struggling to get an extra 1% or 2% over each other. Like they all have the same ideas, the same investment ideas. They're all just basically putting in AI. And so he's like, when you reach that point, if you want to grow revenue or returns 1% or 2% every year, the way you do that is you start cutting into tax, like you just pay less taxes. So instead, all of the innovation, the brilliant minds and the people they're hiring are putting their attention more towards finding ever increasingly impressive ways to get around taxes, because that is a way for your clients to make them an extra 1% over your competition. And so the article went into detail on like, we talked about the more common ways. Maybe I'll do a follow-up on this next week. He went into detail on like, they are getting so advanced and finding so many. I was one example I remember. So you know how like if you have a stock and you sell it at a loss, you can deduct that on your taxes.
Yeah.
Like if I invest in Microsoft, it goes down, I sell it, I can deduct that. And they would do these long short funds where they would have, you bet certain things, you bet against certain things. Some things would lose money, some things would make money. When you package all this into an ETF, it only counts as a sale for you when you sell the whole thing. Okay? So it's holding a lot of stocks that are changing all the time. Like if you hold an S&P 500, it's changing it all the time. So what they're doing now is they're taking all their trade ideas, putting it into an ETF that you buy, okay? And you're not selling the ETF for a long time. But within the ETF, they are structurally putting in losers. They're putting in guaranteed losses that are deducting against
and selling the losses more frequently, right?
They're holding the longs and then constantly selling the shorts to counterbalance it. It's like this insane financial engineering, and it's all legal within our current system. And it was kind of hard to do before, but because of algorithms, they can do it really fast now. So yeah, it's just this weird thing where you're constantly including guaranteed losses into your overall package that you don't individually have to sell, but they can sell to deduct against the overall return of the fund. It's crazy. It's wild. I'll have to do a deeper dive because I didn't fully, I just read this thing, but it just made me think of how obvious it is that, yeah, of course they would start cutting into the taxes because that's the last area. It's like when Game of Thrones, when they have the rat and they're heating it up, there's only one where it can go, dude. They're just going through the tax base. And it reminds me of these ever increasing ways they're finding around data centers and stadiums. And we need one nice story to end on because this is actually a pretty bleak episode. It was a good episode. I really enjoyed it. These are all good stories.
Chinese car supply, or we could do meta sued. That's, I guess.
I have a
kind
good
of a
one.
win.
It's a win. It's a depressing story that ends with punishment, I guess. Do we want to end on like good thing happened or bad thing happened and they're punished? What feels better to end
I think
on?
people want consequences. Yeah, I would love to hear about the punishment of Meta if you have a
all right. I mean, the real quick version, Meta famously made Facebook. And so
that's that.
And I've been reading an article about that. So actually in March, I talked about how they were ordered to pay $375 million in penalties because they, in New Mexico, were determined to have violated the Unfair Practices Act by misleading the public about safety for young users. But actually, that was a two-part trial, which I didn't know about. Yeah. And then part two just ended this week. And the second part was a different legal question, which is like, is the platform a public nuisance to teen health? And so the judge ordered that, yes, it is, and ordered a $567 million fine for harming teens' health. So the total from that case is $942 million that Meta is paying just in New Mexico for harming young people's mental health. And they're being ordered to change how they operate. They are supposed to remove like counts now, which...
Wait, what?
Yeah. So the judge is saying, like, in order for this to not be a public health hazard...
How do I know how many likes I get?
I know. And what's even worse, for underage users, they won't be able to look at their metrics to see how well their posts are doing. No push notifications from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Wait, dude, we are inventing the Daily Scroll from first principles. We are going to get there eventually. You guys think it's stupid, but every year we get closer to it.
Dude, I'm not even kidding.
They're putting time gapped on certain notifications. That's so... Daily Scroll coded.
We're getting closer and closer to the Daily Scroll. You have to admit it. The Daily Scroll's coming.
It's coming.
And then unfortunately, they did a cap of, for young people, 90 hours a month, which equivocates to about 3 hours a day. And unfortunately, Brandon, they did not say that those 3 hours have to happen at a certain time slot called the Daily Scroll.
They will.
They will?
They will.
It'll take a few more years.
The world's not ready for it when I proposed it, but I'm ahead of my time.
So it's dude, that's almost $1 billion just in New Mexico. And two other cases, one of which I mentioned, which is that in March, a woman in Los Angeles sued all these social media companies. Meta lost and had to pay her $3 million. Not a lot of money for Meta, but when that's a single individual winning that against Meta, that can scale really, really
a lot
big.
of people could win the same
really fast. And also in 2023, 33 different states sued Meta for harming young people's mental health. That's been combined into one giant federal case that's starting to be held and go to trial now. So they're doing what's called bellwether trials, I believe is the term. And that's where you basically, if there's a whole bunch of things that need to be trialed, you take a couple of them to kind of like test the water. Let's see how it goes. So they're starting right now. This is like, there's like 40 states that are suing Meta in some form for this. The trial's being held in Oakland with the GOAT, Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers.
Yeah, she back.
The same judge who did Apple versus Epic, the same judge who did Elon Musk versus Sam Altman and OpenAI. And now she's doing like the nationwide mega social media trial.
She's in the big ones of the decade.
Yeah. And she seems like really good. So that's sick. So Meta is getting crazy fucked.
Ninth Circuit Court. There's the thing that all these companies use, which is Section 230, which I don't know if I know the exact details of. But that's how they evade responsibility for things uploaded on their platform. And the Ninth Circuit Court just
the idea is like it's user generated content.
Yeah.
So we're not like overseeing, we're not editorializing it.
Right.
We aren't the ones writing this content. Therefore, like we don't have total responsibility for the actual content.
Right.
That's the argument.
The court threw that argument out, or at least said that you cannot use it to dismiss lawsuits out of hand. You can use it as an argument within the lawsuit, but you have to engage with these. So that was the big shift. It is not a defense to liability, or it doesn't provide immunity from being sued, as they were trying to argue. You're not immune from being sued because
I mean that's kind of a step in the direction of stricter punishments or enforcement on the government's part, making them moderate the platforms better, right? And banning people more effectively.
If you're getting $1 billion fines regularly, you better fucking change.
We gave the example of how in China, like a lot of the censorship that is experienced there is not necessarily happening through the government itself. The government just imposes such steep consequences on the companies that they do most of the policing themselves. And yeah, the fact that this is like the first, I think one of the first big cases playing out with this level of consequence in this single state, and this is all following suit, it feels like a step in the right direction, at least. I do think the wishy-washy part to me was the things like, oh, we're getting rid of the push notifications at these times, we're capping the hours, because those are all the things that it's like kids just get around, and I'm not really sure how effective any of those things will be in the aggregate. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I feel like that part of it still needs to be more substantial, but by sticking it to the company, hopefully they start spending more time thinking about the changes they need to make to prevent these things from happening.
Yeah, they're calling it the highest profile corporate trial since the tobacco settlements, like the big, where all the states sued tobacco companies. And this is, like you said, 29 states in a week versus Meta. That's kind of crazy. It's going to be a
I mean, we'll talk about it. Presumably, like many of these things, it will take a long time. Weeks. And, even with the removing likes, it's not clear. First off, Meta's going to appeal it. And then we don't know whether will that be applied across everywhere or just New Mexico. But it's getting to a point of like, can Meta exist as a company? Like,
dude, that's so much bad news recently. It's crazy.
Well, they got Llama.
That's the other thing is like, if they were crushing it in AI, I'd be like, well, you can't stop them because they're going crazy, but they're also losing in AI, it feels like.
Of the big tech companies, they're the only ones that I can really think. It's just social media, right?
Yeah.
But if social media now becomes, any person under 18 can sue you for millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Anyone. Like, how do you survive as a business? I don't know. This is a crazy thing. So
they have the metaverse. So
they do have the metaverse.
Let's not rule out the legless metaverse.
So TikTok is also being sued by tons of young people. This is a Reuters article. And they're settling privately. Like TikTok is not allowing these to go to trial. So like Snap and TikTok are also dealing with this right now. And they're just trying to like stuff it under the rug by settling. rather than doing what Meta is doing. There are right now in Los Angeles alone 3,300 lawsuits against social media companies for harming young people's mental health. If every one of those is worth $7 million, and that's just in Los Angeles.
Dude, they're going to be like the billboards for car
It's
accidents.
gonna be like,
Have you been harmed by social
No,
media?
seriously.
did you feel bad about yourself when you were under 18?
If you're under 18 and you want to make some money, sue TikTok right now. They'll probably pay you to just shut it up. Not even kidding.
Yeah.
Their
Not
incentive is-
financial advice.
No, I'm guaranteeing this lawsuit will be profitable for you.
Well, look.
That's crazy.
That
Wait, I have one. It's like a 3-second story.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I'll end on a story because this is a good one. It made me think of it when you were talking about Japan earlier.
Okay.
You said in these Japanese towns they can't control all the bears. There's so many bears.
There's a surge in bears.
There's a surge in bears. Well, there's a Chinese town where they don't have enough bears, but they're kind of known for their bears. So they came up with a solution. They're going to pay people $15,000 to wear a bear costume and be totally silent.
Is ridiculous. They could solve their problem easily by importing foreign bears, and their xenophobia.
Yeah, there's
will not
xenophobia
allow
for
them-
Japanese bears.
They do have
The
crazy
problem with
bears
Japan and
xenophobia.
China.
We didn't talk about that a lot
So
while we were there.
yeah, we should talk about this more. And by the way, this is a available job even for foreigners, I think. So if you want to make some money, you can go to China. You can be a bear. You have to wear the costume. You're
You
not
don't
allowed
have
to
to
speak.
Chinese.
You can't scroll social media.
Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have said anything.
And they want you to be playful with it. So you have to kind of like be fun, but still act like a bear. You have to act like a bear.
Okay.
So I will end on that note. Little fun economy news. Easy way to make money in this. There's always a way to find ways. Okay.
This was a tough episode. I'm doing the mental recap of the stories. If you want more heartwarming content, you can go to the Patreon, patreon.com/lemonade stand, where we do an extra hour of the show every week. We also do a book club. We just did our book club episode on Disney War.
It was
which
great.
really good.
Yeah.
We will see you guys next week.
Thanks, you guys, for watching. See you next
Bye,
week.
everybody.
Bye.